Welcome back to Approach the Climb. This is a podcast where we talk about real stories, strategies, and insights to help you on your personal climb to success. If you haven't already, make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. That would mean the world to me if you would support me in that way. But today we have a very special guest, Spencer Anthony. He is a singer and songwriter from right here in Milford, Ohio. Super talented. I will make sure to put all of his music down below so that you can go and listen to that. But Spencer has an incredible story that he's going to share with us today, and how he was able to get through some times in his life that were very difficult through depression, rejection, and pursuing a career across the country. So really excited to share that with you all today. If it resonates with you, if you feel like it's left an impact on your life, which I know that it will, please share this out, because this message is only good to the people that are able to hear it. So through you being able to share this, I think we'll be able to reach a whole lot of people. And Spencer, I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super grateful to be here, man.
Yeah, you have such a cool story. And before we get into all of that, I want to talk about something that people may not know about you. Yeah. You are a certified personal trainer.
Yes, CPT. I think it was CPT 3 when I was hired. I worked at North Hollywood, 24-hour fitness.
Nice.
Can't believe I forgot it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, and I trained. It was amazing. It was right in Hollywood. It was exciting. It was a lot of fun. I trained everything from all types of people, from drag queens to theme park employees.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I had a client who was a drag queen, and his drag character Sherry was like world famous.
That is so cool.
Yeah, his name was Keith, and he'd be like, "Hey, I was in London this past weekend." I was like, "No way!" Just doing a really cool drag show. It was awesome.
That's so really cool. It's so cool and I think through fitness, like, you really get to see like the raw version of people, because they're really trying to change themselves. So it's really cool that you're able to see not only a super diverse set of people, but you're able to get to know like really deep down into them and help them accomplish a lot of the goals that they wanted to hit.
It was amazing being in that environment and being in that gym specifically. Like my fitness manager played in the NFL.
Gosh.
Like the boxing trainer, he was an extra in Avatar 2 and 3. So like goodness. he wore the sweatshirt, and this was like 2019. So the film didn't even come out until 2023. Yeah. Avatar 2, he'd filmed it in probably 2018, 2019,
Oh my gosh.
Or like all kinds of different people, different backgrounds. Los Angeles is really cool for that. Really cool for that. You see all types of different people coming together. It's very, very interesting, especially in gyms, because you see the best in the most pronounced versions of people's personalities in a gym, don't you?
You really do.
Great qualities and not so great qualities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so raw in a gym. I feel like it's just that's who people truly are sometimes. Yeah. But so cool you were able to do that. But I want to talk a little bit about the first career that you were pursuing. You talked about picking up a guitar at 8 years old, starting your first band at 15, and then when you were 16 years old, you moved across the country to pursue this career.
Yeah.
So for me, it's hard for me to fathom that, because I was very like safe. I'm like, I'm going to right here. I'm safe. What was that like were you always the type of person that took adventures and challenges, or was it?
No.
What was that like for you?
I'm as shocked as you are. To tell you the truth, because I'm the same way. Yeah. I love being at home. When I was a kid, I would get through the school days so that I could go home and watch Star Wars for the 50th time. I was always a kid who was very much, I like to stay in my comfort zone, socially. But a switch kind of flipped in me, I think, when I was about 15. I decided, my parents are both great athletes. My mom was a fitness model. So I thought at 15, I was like, well, I'd like to start to kind of get into that. Got some pictures done. And then an agent from downtown Cincinnati, Jake Lang, he's still my agent. He's a wonderful guy.
That's awesome.
I reached out to him, sent him the photos, or well, my parents did at the time. And we met with him, and he was like, "You should start acting." And I thought, no, I just want to model. And, acting he's like, well, you're not 6'1". You need to be like 6'1" to model. I was like, oh, darn. Like 5'10" and a half. Never
right,
felt
like,
so.
dang.
I was like, I thought I just got there.
Right.
And so he's like, why don't you act? Why don't you do musicals? I was like, no way. My dad and I were like, no way. My mom signed me up for a musical without telling me when I was 15.
Moms are good at that.
Yeah. And she said, just try out. You don't have to do it. No, she paid for the whole thing already. Like it was a done deal. And I went and auditioned and kind of got a little buzz from that. I came back and did it. I was like, okay, fine. I loved it. It was like it was life-changing. I got to experience music and a story, a fantasy. It was a play called Into the Woods, musical called Into the Woods.
Okay.
And I got to experience that, and it was life-changing. It really was. So that's in January. The play premieres in April. In July, we go to an expo for talent and stuff that my agent sends us to in Texas. In August, we're in Los Angeles. It was like that. It happened so quickly. And throughout that whole time, from this time when I was modeling to moving to Los Angeles, I was also in a band. The band lasted for like 9 months, and it was that kind of thing. It was in that same time period. It was like I was doing both, and that sort of set the precedent for the next 5 years of my life. So,
man, that is so cool to think about, and thinking about your mom just signing you up. I mean, that is such a mom thing to do, and my mom would totally do something like that too. She'd like, I signed you up, we're already doing it, we're taking the trip, I bought the tickets, we're already there. So I can totally like relate to that. Yep. My mom is probably laughing at this right now, as is yours.
She is.
So.
Yeah. So Josh's mom is my band mom. She's been a huge part of my life for gosh, like 6 years now.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
been a
believe
while.
But Christy, love you.
Yeah, love you, Mom. So it's so cool to hear that, like, that small spark of excitement in you at 15, 16 years old. You were like, this is where I want to go. Like, this is what I want to do. And so through the wise counsel of your agent, Jake, and just support of your parents, which I think is huge.
So support. I mean, it was unbelievable. It really was. They're incredible. I mean, they really did everything that they could to put me in that position. And it was, I mean, that's the gift of a lifetime for them to do that. So I thank them constantly for it, profusely.
It's so great. And I think, something that I think is easy to take for granted sometimes when you think about the support systems that we have, but to have something like that in your home, that supportive, I love to hear that.
It's incredible.
It's great to hear supportive families.
Yeah, it is.
And taking this trip to LA to pursue this thing, obviously with challenges, I'm sure, along the way. You're leaving. Had you ever lived out of Ohio at that time?
No, born and raised Cincinnati, Ohio. Thought I was really going to be around here. My dream since I was a kid was to tour in a band, really. For a few years, I was focused on sports just because my dad was an incredible athlete, so I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. But there's some different situations, and I had a rough time in high school kind of fitting in and playing sports. So my sophomore year, I was always, my focus had to be extracurricular. I wasn't very academic. Not that I just didn't enjoy it. Yeah. So it shifted right to music. And then with everything that led to LA, sort of the acting as well. But it was scary. I mean, going out there and doing that was wild. But there's an energy about Los Angeles.
Yeah. I think, and I've visited there, never was there to pursue anything, but you can tell there's so much, you look at the street performers that are like in downtown Hollywood. Yeah. And some people would be like, oh, like get these people out of my face. Like I'm just trying to go and look at the wax museum.
Right.
But if you really look at those people that are out there performing on the streets and whatever your reason is for being in LA, the passion that just bleeds out of people is phenomenal. So you talking about just there's this type of energy in LA. I think it really comes from just that passion that people have for what they want to do.
Yeah. And the weather too.
Oh, well, the weather is absolutely amazing.
Kind of a given. Yeah. No, it's honestly crazy about what vitamin D does for the
Seriously.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I actually never even thought about until you just said that.
It's wild. The air and the energy that people have. Everyone is, I think we're lucky. Cincinnati's great. I love Cincinnati. And the more and more that I've seen the country, I haven't been outside the country, but the more and more I've seen the country, the more and more grateful I am to be in Cincinnati because it's just an incredible town. But California, everyone is so kind. I mean, it is like there's just so much. Just everyone's very upbeat.
Yeah.
And the energy is wild. It's really cool.
So you had quite a few really good times in LA, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was a magical experience. It was the experience of a lifetime. I mean, I look back on it so fondly, and I'll definitely live there again.
Yeah.
Sometime, when my career's in a different spot.
When the time's right.
Yeah, when the time is right. Yeah, exactly. So
that's cool.
Loved it.
But with that, and with you pursuing this career, and there can be some downsides. There can be some negative thoughts and feelings and emotions. And I know that you mentioned having some depression and rejection and all of the things that come with pursuing a passion that I think a lot of people in the audience can resonate with, especially when you talk about people that are more on the creative side of things. Yeah. People out there trying to really create something for themselves, whether that's an artist or songwriter or, whatever it may be. There's so many mental battles I think you go through.
Oh, yeah.
And so you talked a little bit about, the depression, the rejection and things like that you felt. Tell me a little bit about that, and how are you able to navigate those things through all of these good times that you were having as well?
So when you go into acting in the industry of entertainment and acting, you're evaluated. Your appearance, the way you speak, the way you are, you're heavily evaluated. And it's not like that sort of paints a picture of it being terrifying. It's not. It's just there's a certain level of discomfort to it. Like I remember interviewing managers and agents and going into their office, and it was just intimidating. I mean, regardless of how the experience went. And then after that, you get auditions. And so, I went on probably hundreds of auditions, and over the course of that time, and I remember it's always a no. It's almost always a no. That's the thing about it that's really interesting, because you're going up against anywhere from 20 to 200 people, I mean, for the same thing, which is just so daunting. It's like auditioning. Imagine auditioning for American Idol, but the only way you get to the next round is if you are the winner. Like that kind of thing. Sort of like... So I remember very specifically there was a moment that shifted my perspective on it. For years and years, probably 3.5 years, I was doing this, and I was probably like 19, maybe 20 at the time. And I remember I auditioned for The Voice. And it was the first time that I was told no. Like, because every acting audition, it'd just be like, yeah, great job, thanks for coming in. And then you just never hear from them.
Right.
Your agent might be like, oh yeah, they went in this direction or whatever, but they don't know. They're not telling you no. I went through probably 80 to 100 of these auditions, and that moment when I heard no, auditioning for The Voice, it's like something snapped. And that was the first time like I felt all the residual rejection of hearing no. And it really was crushing. It was very difficult to deal with, because I had, sacrificed my teen years to do it. I sacrificed high school. I sacrificed most of my social life. And still, I don't even think that that's nearly as much as like my mom sacrificed. She moved out there with me for the first 3 years that I was there. Because, I was 16 when I went out there. So she sacrificed a lot too. And it's just like, you feel a lot of different things. Like I felt, I felt incredibly, rejected for sure, but also just like, man, like I've been doing this for so long. I mean, at that point, 3 years felt like an eternity. Now it's been more like 8 years that I've been pursuing a career in the arts, so to speak. And it's like, it's a different feeling now, but then it felt like an eternity, and it was quite crushing. And I think, that experience just, it was a rough time. I had to learn what the rejection was, because I didn't know what the rejection was. The rejection didn't have anything to do with me. It was just how I felt. It was just a reflection of how I, felt about, I guess, it was a reflection of my confidence.
Yeah.
It really was. Looking back, with 2020 hindsight, it was a reflection of my confidence. I went from being an extremely insecure kid to being on the Warner Brothers lot auditioning. This place where I walk by this stage and Friends was filmed there, Big Bang Theory is filming there, or this movie was filmed here. And then I go into a room with a bunch of 15 other guys that look like me, and I have to audition and prove I'm good enough or what they're looking for. But it was definitely, it's something that, so someone who already was insecure, it's definitely like a rough thing. But the cool thing about being tested and being sort of pressure cooked in that is that it does give you a lot of conviction, I think. It gave me a lot of conviction. So in what I do, and in what and in just how my attitude on everything, it made me more of a fighter, and it made me want to give up less.
Yeah.
Going through that,
Right.
So
I like that. And I think it's cool what you say about how rejection brought out your lack of confidence. And I think that can, because truly that's what rejection does. Somebody says no to you. That is either confirming something that you already believe. Like maybe you went into that and you're like, I'm going to audition. I don't know if it's going to work out. Or maybe you went in being like of a forethought of like, I'm the best person ever here and I'm going to audition. I'm definitely going to get it. But they tell you no. And then there's this underlying identity that we truly believe about ourselves. Yeah. And for you, maybe that way underlying thing, it may have been way under there because, talk about 80 to 100 auditions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And people just saying, yeah, we'll get back to you and never do. But the time that they said no, right there, no, right in front of your face, it confirms that's why the first person said no, and the second, all the way up to the 100th before that. Man,
crazy.
So how were you able to take that feeling of rejection and this identity and self-belief that I'm not enough or I'm not confident? I know you just talked about now being a fighter, and what was the switch for you? Like, what changed in your life or in your perspective that made you think, you know what? I am good enough and I'm going to continue to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
I think ultimately it was like, I just realized that like, I wanted to live my life to where I was doing exactly what I wanted. And it's almost like I had to, and I was I continually am so lucky that, my family is incredibly supportive of that. Like I truly believe that, being in the arts, entertainment, creating music, writing music, is what I'm, what I'm meant to do because I love it, And I just realized like I needed to find something that was worth the no's. Like if it wasn't worth hearing no, then it wasn't the right thing. If I found something to where the no's would build my confidence because I knew that I was growing and progressing. Because ultimately, like every time I make a post on social media, it feels like an audition. It really does.
Yeah.
And I know that the outcome of that, the only thing I can control about that post is the effort that I put into the post and my attitude when I see the results. And if the results aren't what I want, I could either let that take me down, which has happened to me.
Yeah.
Or I can say, okay, great. I'm very grateful to have done that. I'm very proud of myself. Let's do the next thing. That's probably been the biggest shift of overcoming that, is just realizing like, hey, you know what? I have something that I love. That's the love of my life at this point in my life. And I would sacrifice for that. And I won't give up on that dream.
Yeah.
You know, because your dreams are sacred. Your dreams are your dreams are the gift that, you know, God or the universe or whatever you believe in gives you as a gift, I think. And sometimes when we quiet our dreams and take not necessarily the easy route, but a route that is more comfortable, more succinct, to less rejection, less uncertainty, we sort of bury a part of ourselves, and it can cause a lot of problems, I think, emotional issues and even health issues. You know, so and you know, in saying that, just because I'm doing what I love, it doesn't mean I haven't gone through that either. Like where I've sort of, meaning not being confident, like in the past, if I haven't been confident about this direction that I want to go, or I've been dealing with the rejection and I've started to doubt, then I bury my dream, sort of.
Yeah.
I'm still doing it, but I kind of still bury the dream, and I see how that affects my life, my health, my mental health. Music, to me, writing my own music, becoming an artist, and following the dream that I had as a kid, watching YouTube videos of Metallica or whatever favorite band playing, you know, live in Europe, that was worth the pain and the rejection and the sacrifice. And seeing that dream and me doing that is worth every single bump on the road. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, you know?
Yeah. And it's cool too to see, like, as you were talking, I was painting this picture in my head of the things that you were saying and thinking about dreams and rejection. And I almost pictured every no, you know, before this point of you realizing what was happening, every no, just you were underneath all of it. They stacked on top of you. No, 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 no. But you were able to remind yourself and look back at your dream, which is now, you know, way beyond all of these no's, right? But you're like, you know what? That's still what I want. I'm still going to pursue this. And you climbed on top of all of those no's. And it doesn't mean that more no's aren't going to come. Like you said, with social media posts, or maybe in the future, you'll get, you know, no's. I'm sure you get them still all the time. And it's not those things that define us. Each no gets you closer to that yes. So it's like just noticing, you know, I picture you climbing, and, you know, not to be like a metaphor for Approach the Climb, which is the name of the show.
It really fits.
It does. It really does. I mean, you're constantly climbing on top of these things to pursue that dream.
Yeah.
And it is difficult. It's exhausting. And I think about, for me, and we talked a little bit about like my physical health journey and my mental health journey, and the things that I've been going through. It's like, that stuff's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because I have this goal in mind on where I want to be and what I want to pursue. And like you said, like, I'm not going to stop doing it.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it's like God has given me this dream and this vision, and I'm going to continue to push towards that until it shifts or until something else happens. So it's cool. Like, for me, and for those of you out there that maybe have a hard time taking words, I hope that picture maybe resonates a little more with you, to like, that's what it is. Like, you just are building on top of all of these things, and you're like, yeah, I'm not defined by all of these things, but all these things are helping me define who I am now. So, you know, you're going through all these things, you're kind of shifting your perspective on life, and it's so cool too. I think, I talked to you a little bit before we started recording just about the brain and how it's able to shift and change depending on our environment and our belief system and all of these things. And, you know, you start working through all this stuff, and, you know, I don't know where in your journey that you read the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, but I listened to that on Audible audiobooks. And for those of you out there, David Goggins wrote a book called Can't Hurt Me. If you don't know David Goggins, literally just Google him. You'll probably find a video of him running and saying something super motivational with his shirt off. The dude's an absolute animal and amazing, and embodies mental toughness and doing hard things when you don't want to do them. And the book is amazing. And it just talks about his journey through life, what he's had to overcome, and the things that he is doing now. I mean, talking about doing races with no training and stuff like that. And that inspired you to go and run a marathon with weeks of training.
Yes.
So what from that book made you do that?
That book didn't just change my life. I think it saved my mojo. Like, it saved my confidence. I discovered David Goggins probably in 2016, 2017.
Okay.
I think when he was on Rogan.
Yeah.
And my best friend, I was his best man at his wedding a few months ago. He has a disease called cystic fibrosis.
Okay.
So it's a genetic disease where his body doesn't regulate its mucus production. So he had to be in the hospital a lot as a teenager. And there were many other side effects. So, he'd be in school and he'd be a normal kid. And then he would be in the hospital for 2-3 weeks at Children's here in Cincinnati. So I remember visiting him, and him and I started our first band together. He played bass, we did all these things together. And one time when I was visiting him, I didn't want to show him something that would deter him because I knew that he was sick, but I wanted to show something that would motivate him. And I showed him this video of David Goggins that I had seen earlier on Rogan. And we looked at each other, and it was like this moment of like, okay, I think this is, and he still talks about it. I mean, he changed his life. He actually started taking like a practically life-saving drug that was developed that is a gene corrector. So it corrects the gene. So he lives as a fully functioning adult. And he was never able to gain any body mass. He gained, like 40, 50 pounds of muscle.
What?
Yeah. He started bodybuilding after all this stuff. This is like all this stuff happened in a couple of years, and he like developed himself physically and mentally. And he's an amazing guy. And he's one of my heroes, which is I'm so lucky to have one of my heroes as my best friend. But, but that was where my journey with him started. So I'm seeing Noah, my best friend, go through all this stuff. And I'm living in California. And I decided to start personal training. My mom has been a lifelong fitness instructor. She's taught everything from, dance cardio to weightlifting to she was a bodybuilder, figure competitor. And she's, for the past almost 20 years, she's taught Zumba since 2006. So, she's just always been incredibly active. She's amazing. She's another one of my heroes for sure. And, one of the things that being in fitness and losing, I lost 40 pounds at 12. At 12 years old, I was chubby, lost 40 pounds, ate chicken, broccoli, cottage cheese, did the whole thing. Yeah. And that's how I ate for years. So my fitness maintained in Los Angeles. I'd go to the park, I'd do calisthenics, and I just thought, you know what? I think it's time to get I had to pay rent all of a sudden. Right? Rent was pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So I think it's time to get a job. But I was like, I don't want to do something that I don't like. My 3 biggest passions have always been music, movies and films and nerdy stuff, video games, and fitness. Those have always been my 3 passions. Or fitness and athletics go together. Yeah. So I decided to become a personal trainer. That was a huge step. 2 months into personal training, was doing very, very well. I was having a great time, learning so much. I really loved having that consistency in my life of going to a positive place like the gym, having a community. I heard that David was coming out with a book. Read the book and the audiobook with the interviews because I knew I listened to Rich Roll, the Rich Roll podcast, and he had David on. And so they described how the book was going to have interviews after. Yeah. So I read that in December to January of 2019 going into 2020, the year of our Lord 2020, where everything happened.
With that message that he has to share in that book, to be able to read it at a time when there's so much uncertainty literally everywhere just a couple months ahead that you didn't even know about.
It's crazy. So at the beginning of January, I started running. I'd always been a naturally good runner, but I was like, okay, let me try to run 5 miles. I ran 5 miles. I ran, so I have what's called Poster Row right next to my apartment. It's where Warner Brothers, it's Pass Avenue, and you have Warner Brothers. They have all their shows on life building size posters.
Oh, cool.
So you go down there, you turn right. Warner Brothers is it's like its own town. It's all gated. And you go around and there's a neighborhood that goes right up to Warner Brothers on the other side. And so I'd look through the fence. I'd jog. That'd be my route. I'd go around Warner Brothers and then I'd run all the way down to Disney.
Oh,
not
nice.
not Disney parks, Disney Studios.
Yeah.
So like where Pixar is and all that stuff, which is also a huge town city. And I've auditioned on all these lots, you know. But so I'd run down this. I remember this road. I ran down this road and I looked on one side and I saw all these houses that looked like sitcom houses from the early 2000s because I know that they were.
Right.
These gorgeous houses. And then I looked to the right and I saw the place where they filmed Jurassic Park.
Oh, so cool.
Right through the fence. It's like right this back lot. They filmed in the Muppets movie Kermit the Frog coming up out of the water, and there's so much history there.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, this is incredible. This running stuff is good. Listen to David Goggins. I heard about Badwater. His whole story was incredible.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know what? I can do this. I can do whatever I want. Let's run 10 miles. I ran 10 miles, and I remember I finished up my run right next to where I think at the time Adam Levine lived.
Oh, that's so cool.
I threw my beanie down and I took a video of myself screaming, 10 miles. Yeah. And I'm sure the security guards were sitting there in their Escalades like,
yeah.
what the heck?
They're like getting out of their cars.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Sorry.
It's like, sorry. No. I was just super stoked. And then I said, okay, if I can run a half marathon, then I will sign up for the marathon. So I ran a half marathon midway through January, about this time 4 years ago, just on my own, and the same thing. And then I signed up right as I got home for the LA Marathon, which was March 8th. So just over, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks from when I did this to then. But I signed up, and then I told, my mom was visiting at the time. I signed up,
That's funny.
and then I told her.
You should have signed her up for it.
I know.
But like, hey, mom, I signed you up for a marathon. Remember that one time?
Because I knew that with how extreme it was, it'd be like, well, you should train for 6 months for that and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
and totally valid points,
Yeah.
you know. But I just wanted to see how far I could go. The following week, my roommate said, why don't you run with Adidas? And I was like, I can't do that. She's like, it's Adidas Run Club. It's free. I'm like, really? Go down to Venice Beach. They have this building, the Adidas Run headquarters. It's all free. They give you like swag and stuff, and you run with like Olympic athletes.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
That's so cool.
So I ran 18 miles that day.
That's wild.
Just like it just happened. It's like, because my mindset was there from reading the book. I was so inspired and I was so motivated. I ran 18 miles, and then just really, I didn't do that much intense training because I knew that if I did, that I risked hurting myself before.
Yeah.
So I would just do, runs every couple days just to keep up with it. And I sort of saved myself so I could leave it all out on I truly just believed I could do it. And I did. It was crazy.
So awesome.
We started in Dodger Stadium. I remember I was all alone. I took an Uber up there. No one was with me. And we ran to Ocean Avenue, Santa Monica Beach, 26.2 miles. We ran through Beverly Hills, Brentwood. We ran through Hollywood. It was unbelievable. It was one of the coolest things ever. I mean, it was like a fever dream. And I broke. My physical body broke.
Yeah.
At about mile 23. That's when at mile 23 was where Adidas had their cheer on station because they knew that was the spot.
Yeah.
So I was running, and my roommate at the time, she was awesome. She's the best. She was there supporting me with Adidas. She's the person who got me with Adidas. And I was running by him and so excited. Waved to him and stuff, and she got out and she ran with me.
Oh, so cool.
Down San Vicente in Brentwood, headed towards the beach. And so she ran with me for like a mile and a half. Man. And that kept me going. Because it got to the point where my mind was still good, but my
Your
legs
body
started
starts
to break.
to go. You're
my
like,
legs were like, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done. We're not going any
Dude,
farther.
you haven't done this before.
Yes, exactly. And so when she did that, it's like kind of how you were talking about the willpower center of the brain. I totally forget the terminology.
Yeah.
But it fired, and suddenly like my body could work again. And then I sprinted the last 100 yards.
Man.
Or at least 100 yards. I think it was more than that. It was like I just couldn't, and then it was absolutely wild. There's pictures of me like crossing the finish line, and I can see the look on my face.
Yeah.
Like it's like, whoa. But the crazy thing was,
That's
after
so
we're
cool.
done, it's like I've achieved this. Like no one's there it's super crowded. No one can drive up there. Like, and I'm like alone. Like, I just was just disoriented, and I had to walk 3 miles.
Oh my gosh.
After I just, and I remember this lady like yelled at me. I was like, "Where are the medals?" She's like, "Back there." She's like, "Why didn't you get one?" She started yelling at me. I was like, because she was like one of the employees. I'm like, "Listen, I just ran like 26.2 miles. Like,
I don't know.
I didn't look for my medal right when I walked through the door."
Yeah.
You know what I
think
mean?
I do this every week. Like,
Yeah. It's like, yeah. What do you think? Yeah.
Oh,
This
that's
is my
so
first
funny.
marathon. Like, I'm not used to this,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll never forget. Like, it changed my life. And to tell the truth, like I thought that I had a lot of anxiety at the time, and was dealing with a rough season of just kind of being out there for 5 years and just starting to feel the sorrow of, the rejection and things like that. And so I did this to help me mentally get through it. And it did the opposite thing that I was hoping it would do. I thought that it would cure me or free my ails or prove to myself. And it didn't. It did the opposite. I broke after the marathon, mentally. I was not broke like in a literal sense. I mean, I just had a period of time where I was like, like everything sort of came out, and then I could get better from there.
Right.
But it was the marathon that did that. If I wouldn't have done that, it would have just been years and years of just covering stuff up. But I'm so glad that I did, because I got to prove to myself what I could do, and experience that emotional release, I guess.
Yeah. For you, it wasn't about the marathon.
No way.
The marathon was obviously like in the forefront of your mind, but behind all of that, you were also battling these identity things, these self-beliefs, this, am I worth it? Lacking confidence, all of these things. So like the marathon may have been the thing that kind of pulled a lot of that stuff out afterwards. And that's where you were like, well, now what do I do? But you redefined who you were from that moment. So like you completed that. That was your goal. But then defining a new possibility in your mind was able to push you even farther than you probably could have ever expected, when you were 15, 16, 17, at that age. So
it's crazy.
That's so cool to think about. And one thing I think is key in that journey is the Adidas Run Club, because you talked about running 10 miles and be like, yes, I did it. You join the Adidas Run Club with other runners, with Olympic athletes, with all these people that are having the same mindset. And I think one of the biggest things for people that are listening to this is you may be in an environment where you are the only person trying to achieve whatever it is that you're setting out to achieve. And you're going to be stuck in your limited belief system if you sit in that environment. So we have to change our environment. We have to change some of the people we're around sometimes. And that can be really hard. Like, it can be really difficult. I'm fortunate enough, one of the things in my journey, I stopped playing video games because I was like, I can't do it anymore, because it's keeping me up late at night. It's not really adding anything to my life. The one thing that it did add was I was able to meet some incredible people that I still talk to today. And they give me crap sometimes for not playing video games, but I'm like, I can't. That's not what I'm meant to be doing right now. Yeah. But environment is so important. So the fact that you went out with the Adidas Run Club, was able to run 18 miles, and you had never done that before.
It was wild.
That's huge. To be surrounded by like-minded people in an environment where people are doing that, it helps you define what's possible. I think it's so fascinating having these types of conversations with people, because you can truly learn where people are coming from, and you can truly define what's possible, even in your own life. So like for me, so I'm running a half marathon in May.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I told myself, I signed up for it last year before I even started 75 Hard. And my wife was like, I'm going to walk it. So Emily's going to do it too. And there's a couple of our friends that are doing it. So like, we're going to walk it. And I told myself, I was like, well, if I get down to 240, I'll start training to run it. And of course I hit it. So I was like, yes, but I was like, dang it. Because now I'm at a point where I've told myself I'm going to do it. so I know I'm going to do it. It's like, I got to do it now.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about your journey and right now and how you're starting to lock in your nutrition and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I got to do
Yeah.
it because I told myself I'm going to do
Yeah.
it. So it's cool to like build that mindset. And so, to kind of put a recap on everything that was a lot. We talked about a whole lot of stuff, and just all of it is really good just from your, where kind of growing up, and I think limiting beliefs kind of resounded in all of that stuff, and moving out to LA and pursuing these careers, and, stacking yourself on top of the nose and truly putting a new belief system inside of you, running a marathon, figuring out what's possible in your life, and even now continuing to pursue the different content creation that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about producing your own music and starting in that journey, and it's kind of scary, but it's something that that is like the next logical step in your journey, that you're like, I'm going to do this. And so through all of those things, you had that defining moment of understanding what was possible with the marathon and while you were in LA. What would you say to the audience that may be struggling with rejection or depression, or they're feeling in this low spot where they feel crushed and they feel like the world is on top of them and they don't know how to break out of that? What would you say to the people out there that are feeling that right now?
The most valuable advice I could give is find something that you can't live without. Find something that you can't imagine not doing. That's what got me through that. Was I need music. I need it, and that's okay. Like I fully accept, like it's just, I need to do it in order to be myself, and because I accepted that, now I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, so I would say for sure, it's find something that, in other words, besides find something you can't live without, find something that lights a fire in you. Find something to where you feel excitement in your heart and in a fire in your belly. Like you just feel that inner excitement to get up and get out of bed and do it. That is the most powerful tool you could ever have, is that inspiration. And I think, Goggins talks a lot about the difference between motivation and drive, right? Motivation is fleeting. Motivation is, I'm going to start 75 hard. 5 days in, this is 75 too hard, Yeah. Like, it's like, and then going back, and look, I've done that before. I think we all have, but I think it's just the fire comes from the discipline to continue, I think, because the motivation is amazing, and we all go through different periods where we're super motivated and super not motivated, but if you stick with it, you will develop your own motivation, and that's drive, is when you can develop your own motivation, regardless of the rejections, the naysayers, all of those things. You can develop a belief in yourself and a strong conviction that this is what you want to do and you are going to do it. So yeah, I think finding something that that brings your passion out, brings out that you are the best version of yourself when doing it, and sticking to it through everything. I feel like that is the most powerful piece of advice that I could give at this point in my life. I've got so much to learn. I don't know too much, but from what I do know, I think that's something that inspires me whenever I need inspiration.
I think that's such good advice. You have to figure out what it is. Like you said, it's a fire in your belly.
Yes.
And I literally can feel that. Like I know, I feel that in you when you talk about music, and when I see you perform and when I hear your songs, I'm like, I can tell that this is a thing that sparks joy in him. And you have to build that out. You have to define what that is for you. Nobody else is going to do it. You're going to do it. You're going to figure out what it is. So if you're in a deep, low place right now, wherever you are, find some space for you, do some breathing, and figure out what it is in your inner being. What is your why? Why do you want to do whatever it is that you want to set your mind to do? Whether it's music, whether it's parenting, whether it's inspiring others, whether it's fitness, being a coach, being an IT, being a lawyer, being a doctor, whatever it is, whatever these dreams are that you have, you can get out of that. You can kind of separate your mind from that and approach the climb. But that, I think ultimately, if we can figure out as a people what that is and continue to provide safe spaces and encourage other people to do that with us. Like for me, part of my journey is not only doing this for myself, right? Because it's like my big why is my family. I want to be here and present and happy and fully functioning for my family. But also I've added on like this inspiration to others into that. That's kind of come out of all of this. So for me, it's like I will continue to better myself to help people understand what's possible. Just like, I may not go and run a marathon with 4 weeks of training or go do something like Goggins and run Badwater, but I am trying to help people with their limiting beliefs of themselves and defining their new possible, defining their why, finding that fire in their belly so that they can push past whatever it is that they're feeling in that moment. And it sounds like for you, that's what you would advise people to do. And that's kind of where your experience comes from. Before we close out, is there anything else any save rounds?
I have two things. First of all, your 75 hard journey has been so inspiring to me. I've been looking to get into that world myself, as we talked before. I'm ready for a physical transformation as well. Yeah. So, and a mental transformation,
Yeah, that was the big one.
Right, exactly. So thank you for sharing that with everyone, because when your mom told me about that, and I've seen your results and your progress. I mean, very inspiring. And then also, is there anything keto at Taco John's? I passed by on the way here.
No.
Man.
I wish there was, dude.
Oh, that's terrible.
I wish there was something good at Taco John's.
I passed by on the way here. I've never been there. I was like, is there anything keto there? Oh, man.
There sure isn't. Unless it's, you can, they might have like a power bowl or something like that you could get.
With just like lettuce.
Like no rice or.
Yeah.
But yeah, Taco John's is amazing. It was so good. I binged on Taco John's for a while. I haven't had it since.
You haven't had it since?
I haven't had it since I've started, so maybe I'll have a chicken taco.
You think now that you say
that, you talk about the fire in your belly. Taco John's is the fire in my belly right now.
It's always the Taco John's or Taco Bell.
Yeah, it's something
It's
taco.
all of our downfalls.
Oh my gosh. Well, Spencer, thanks for being on the podcast, and thank you all for listening. Again, if any of this stuff resonated with you today, if you're in a position that we kind of talked about that, I really think both of us have kind of been through a similar journey. Number one, do not hesitate to reach out for help. I am here, and I'm sure, Spencer would say the same thing. I'm always here to talk you through whatever it is that you're going through. I will put my social media links down below, and I'll have ways to reach out to Spencer as well. But don't hold it inside. We talked about it on our last podcast on just not keeping things internal, but externalizing it so that it doesn't hold that same power over our lives. And I think there's just so much power in doing that and in getting to these places that we want to be in our life. So thank you for listening. Share it out if it is something that you want to do. We would really appreciate to see that here on Approach to Climb. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave that 5-star review, and we wish you the best on your personal climb to success.